VPN at technophilespodcast.com. I'm David Geisler, and this is the Technophiles Podcast. All right, we are back from the break. This is part 2 of episode 296. I almost forgot what episode we were in here.
Yeah.
We just got done in part 1 talking all about IBM's quantum computer going out onto the cloud, you could say. You can go back and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Maybe click right over on the card right over there or something. Yeah. Go listen to that and come back over here.
I think I tagged the video wrong.
Did you put it as like episode 184 or something?
I think it was 294 because I was thinking we're 4 away from 300.
Ooh, went the other direction. That's all right.
Math is hard.
It's okay. I think we'll get by.
Yeah.
Because we are back from the break. And Vee, fill us in. What's up?
All right.
DeepMind.
So I think most everybody here knows DeepMind, but we'll go over it again because it's amazing. So DeepMind was this company project that Google funded. It's Google's DeepMind. It's an AI. And instead of just being like a bunch of algorithms that calculate a bunch of things really fast in all possible situations, it's like an adaptive thinker. What they call it is information solving, is that it's given information and it figures out what it needs to do and just thinks short term, but like learns from it, like from mistakes and from watching, and just gathers all that information and pulls on these different ideas in order to do things.
DeepMind is the same program that
is AlphaGo.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. AlphaGo.
And one of the ways it learned was by playing itself over and over again.
Over and over and over.
As you pointed out in your newscast episode, 190 kabillion trillion.
I think that was my first one as well.
In fact, we both did an episode on AlphaGo. Yep. I did it when like
That's
on the like dawn of it, like starting to play people, and then I believe you covered it.
I followed up with it crushing face.
Crushing the master of Go, the worldwide champion of Go.
So apparently whatever Google's got cooking is working pretty well.
Yeah. So DeepMind's been a good investment so far, I'd say. I'd say that's pretty amazing. The fact that it's like 20 years ahead of schedule in terms of like AI and being able to beat somebody at Go, a champion at Go. So they're like finding new ways to kind of apply this AI lately. And one of the most recent and biggest announcements they've had is that they are working with the NHS to solve some medical problems. And to do that, they've gotten access to 1.6 million hospital records.
Yeah.
That's a lot. In the United Kingdom, I guess, is
interesting.
England.
That's the NHS. It's like, I mean, it's full records, it's names.
Well,
so it's not like
it's patient names and
it's like
medical history,
every operation they've had with which doctor, when, what the results were, what medications they're on.
It's the things that doctors cannot
talk
know what
about.
I mean? Yeah,
right.
Yep.
So naturally, there's a bit of an upset about this.
Yeah.
However, Google has like come out and stated like clearly, like this, our goal for this project is to use DeepMind to solve the problem, and it's like a small one because it's their first time using DeepMind in like a medical context. So while it's a small problem, it still has an impact because you need your kidneys. They're treating acute kidney injuries, which is kind of like a silent like happening that happens when you get like injuries or low blood levels or like low blood pressure or heart failure, things like that. It messes with your kidneys because you've got tons of arteries going there, and it can get a lot of bad stuff pumping in your blood, and it's a bad time. And about 4,000 people in the UK die a year from it. But like 25% of the cases are preventable. So
okay,
so what they're going to be doing is being like scouring all, like 5 years worth of documents to try and figure out what these trends are, what's preventable, and how you can detect it,
and where where the flags might be, so they can predict it a little earlier. Really
so yeah, right. For. And the goal is to kind of create like an alert system,
right? I think
for doctors,
exactly.
Right. So it's not a cure necessarily, but it's like you start identifying the risk, and now all of a sudden the app, which they're going to make an app, right? Yep. It'll tell doctors like, hey, this person
1.6
is
million
at
records
risk.
of history, you're going to find some trends there that you can apply to future data.
Precisely. And, since the AI works pretty fast and works pretty logically, I imagine you give it its goal and it's just like, all right, I'll start finding all these similarities between all these things. I think that's going to be really spectacular.
It is spectacular. Obviously, people are a little uncomfortable because at face value, it kind of feels like there's some patient privacy stuff going on here.
Yes, but that's sort of the thing with NHS is that you kind of agree to share that information. NHS has been sharing information with third-party groups since forever.
Okay.
But you can opt out of that stuff. And I think actually Google has stated that the names of the patients are encrypted. So I think they're just numbers or something. So you can't apply identities to them. But people of course are going to be like,
DeepMind is his name Joe? Because 40% of Joes get kidney failure.
Yeah, well, that's the trend.
Yeah,
that's the trend.
I don't know about that, DeepMind.
No, it's weird. It's not low blood pressure or anything. It's being named Joe. Who'd have thunk?
Vee, did you say 4,000 deaths?
Yeah, was it 40,000?
40,000.
I knew it was 40,000 deaths
A year.
Yes.
A year. Yeah.
It contributes to 40,000 deaths a year in the UK, which
Kidney failure alone
are often preventable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it.
From acute kidney injury.
Many of which are.
That ain't
What the
cute.
Brits
That ain't a
doing
cute number.
to themselves.
Well, I'm sure that number here is insane. It's just that.
Yeah.
even higher.
I mean,
that we're not talking
We
about
don't
today.
have. Yeah, we're only looking at the UK today.
All right, we'll pick on the Brits.
Yeah. Well,
Gosh, jeez.
they're all common things that cause it. So
Sure.
it sneaks up on a lot of people. I can't imagine.
Does Google have any kind of idea of a timeline or anything? They're saying hey, we might have some answers in a year or two.
Not yet, but they're already working together with doctors to create an app to organize all this information they've got. And it's gonna they interview a few professionals in the field who, are working with patients and also working on and analyzing data at the same time.
Right.
So they're working together to make an app for them. So they don't have to go back to some computer halfway across the hospital. Instead, they can just pull out their phone and all the information on a patient is organized there. And it's all available to them and it can kind of point out those trends. It's got graphs and stuff. It's super excellent. And they've got another group, I forget what it's called, that is a subset of DeepMind that's going to be working specifically with for medical purposes. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, is anyone on this crew concerned that Google has access to all this?
No. I don't mind if people disagree with me, but I'm total 1984. I don't care. I think crowdfunding data is better for humans in the long run. Personally, I don't get too worried about that stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, actually, I'm what I was going to say kind of goes along with that. So there's been other cases in history that, although have been very controversial because of the access privacy thing, but then because of that access, we have very viable treatments and cures for certain things. And that just those medical breakthroughs don't happen without access to data. So I think even though I do think we should take privacy very seriously, and I think okay, they're going to use the number codes and that's great, and I'm assuming Google's not going to be selling this on the black market, and that's great. Yes, we should have those conversations, but at the end of the day, if you want more medical breakthroughs, then we need access to medical data.
Yeah,
right. And
you need those samples.
And truthfully, I think it's fair to assume that a company like Google, they don't care about that one guy named Joe's path. They care about the 40,000 guys named Joe's paths and what the trends are, or whatever.
Right.
I'm saying Joe's a joke here, but you see where I'm going with this? They don't actually care about me.
Yeah.
They care about the 500,000 other people that are kind of like me and see where we are similar and where we're different.
Right.
Well, I think right now what we're dealing with is, it's all speculation of what could be possible as far as, they have this records and blah, 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 everyone's freaking out. But I mean, Google, the reason that DeepMind and Google picked this project was because healthcare professionals have already identified that, hey, if we could just look at more data,
Right.
Right.
we can help prevent this
Right.
often. And so, maybe right now the public bias is a little bit more negative, skewed negatively, because they're like, what do they need this all for? But I think once Google delivers the first time, then you have a lot more people that are willing to kind of say, you know what else do you guys need? Because that's fantastic. And I mean, if Google's spending all of this time and energy on this project, I mean, we have to assume that there is other.
Say, is it Google or is it Google X?
It's Google.
Just normal
It's
Google.
Google
Huh?
DeepMind. I don't believe there's any mention of Google X at all.
Well, now that there's Alphabet, does Google X still exist, or is Google X just Google now? I've lost track of this a
No,
little
it's
bit.
Google XYZ now.
Wait, serious? No, listen to you. It's like a Super Nintendo controller.
No, I'm not sure. I'm still a little befuddled on where everything lies with Google Alphabet. I just keep focusing on the cool projects that I enjoy focusing on.
Alphabet is the larger company.
Like that's like the manager of all the projects.
Well, apparently what
right?
was happening there is, so like all the Google X stuff was happening over these past couple of years, like put the Wi-Fi balloons across continents and let's make things that go to Mars and all this stuff. And this is a little gossipy, but I understand this to be true. And maybe you guys already know this, but the reason Google did the Alphabet thing is because a lot of their investors were saying to Google, cut it out. You're not making any money off of building balloons that put Wi-Fi over continents, or you're not making any money off this, that. Like, stop doing that.
So they can break them up into
we
more
want you
groups.
to sell sweaters to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Google very cleverly said, okay, fine, cool, and built this Alphabet company so that one way or another they were able to basically able to take their Google X projects, keep them going, but remove them from the investors' umbrella was the plan. And they're not being that shy about this. They
that
and
makes
kind of the
sense.
investors are like, fine, we don't want to pay for that part.
Because then all of those projects can be judged on their own merits. They don't have
Whatever
to be
the
associated
investors
with
are. I don't
every-
know if they're huge banks or just people or whatever, but they didn't want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is something I could very much see being what was Google X a year ago. I don't know. It's maybe I'll look into this a little bit.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, for something that started out playing arcade games and Go, this is pretty impressive.
DeepMind?
Yeah, DeepMind.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it's like, okay, now we're going to start applying this to hospitals, and this is like finally like the end game where we talk about a lot about different technologies like robots and AI and stuff that will are cool in like a science setting, but then once you put it like it's way more practical and useful and good for humanity when you put it in a hospital. And this is like one of the first I've seen of that, where we've got this amazing technology, this super intelligent and clever AI. Let's stick it in a hospital now.
Yeah.
Or apply the hospital to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, anything's better than WebMD.
I checked them today. I'm dying. I have about 24 hours. No, just kidding.
My sister's a nurse, and she said, you'd be shocked how many people come in. They go, well, WebMD says I have this.
Yeah.
Like before they even have a chance to diagnose, they're like, well, WebMD says I have this, and this,
Yeah.
so I think I have this. Like, and sometimes the patients think they're helping.
I have something
And
related to that, but
Yeah.
I think I cut Krista-Lee off before. So
I'm
what
sorry.
were you gonna say?
I just steamrolled
No,
through
I
with
was
my story.
I was done.
Okay.
And then
So-
you started.
Baidu is in trouble right now because Baidu is a Chinese search engine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind
okay.
of like Google. It's like the big Google. But now I don't want to like misquote dates or anything like that. But essentially what happened was someone had a kind of particularly nasty form of cancer at a very young age. They went to seek medical treatment often. They went to a lot of different hospitals, like nothing was working. They found a link online to some place that was claiming new technology. Like, we have this new thing and it's still in like testing stages, but you can get access to it. So the person went and committed to this, and this ad, like they basically saw a paid ad on Baidu.
Okay.
And it was like sponsored by Baidu. So rather than it being a correct like representation of the illness and the treatment plans and options, they saw an ad, they went for it, committed, and like this person is just, I mean, they died. They passed
Crazy.
away because of all of this. And I don't want to say that it's directly like, oh my gosh, the search engine killed him. But WebMD and all these different things. Like, this was Baidu right now is under a lot of pressure because of this kind of thing where it's just like this medical, when it becomes it's a business these search engines, they want to provide you information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, where is that line drawn? So I think, here, bringing this back to the conversation we're having right now, Google kind of being very explicit and saying, hey, look, this is not even Google right now. This is DeepMind. DeepMind is doing its thing. This has nothing to do with you and your, like, we are not linking what we see here on your Google Plus account.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that does seem clear here.
It is its very own separate thing.
Yeah.
It's not like coming up with solid conclusions. It's finding trends and just organizing data. It's not like advertising it to the world. Like, so-and-so broke their leg in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
Thought you ought to know that.
But I wonder, so maybe I'm just extrapolating out a little bit here, but my guess is they're doing this in England because there would have been no way to do this in the US because of our laws.
Maybe.
And if there are, and I think there's a lot of potential here, like a lot. And I'm wondering if, England or maybe even somewhere else in Europe is going to start taking over for powerhouse medical colleges because they will have the access to this type of data to do research.
That's a very good point.
Maybe. But also this data might become global. I mean, it might be global data. They're just sourcing from that area, but
It could
But I
be.
see what you're saying.
Well, they are. They're pulling from 3 different hospitals right now. And
See
that's
what
a
they
lot
come
of
up with.
documents considering how many people go in and out of hospitals on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like they're going to be doing it from the past 5 years and also until 2017.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that's going to be even more than
Yeah, that's a lot of data.
6 million documents. Yeah, it's.
I don't know. I
pretty
think when it comes to medicine, I think like knowledge is what you need. Like
Exactly.
it's the only. I don't know how anyone could really be upset about that.
Well,
Well, if you put protections in place, then
Precisely.
it's okay.
I feel like
maybe I am a
Google-
little optimistic about it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Google's been all right with like recording data, but also letting you know that they're doing it and like organizing it and allowing you to keep it to yourself.
It would seem. I want to go to break, but what do you got? What's your
well,
thought?
I was just going to say, it could also be that, like, when we think about, I mean, okay, we sit here and we're reading about tech and looking at all this stuff all the time. I think that most of us are, we're aware. We don't know all of the things in Alphabet and what Google's working on, but we know that they have these sister, we know DeepMind and all these different things. So when someone who maybe isn't as acutely aware of what's going on, if they hear Google and medical records, like, they freak out.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, I think Google is just, they have done such a good job of making themselves known as the people who know everything about you because they help you in everything that you do when you get online, right? I mean, now you Google something, you don't search for it.
Right.
That's just what happened, right? I'll search for that. No, you say I'm going to Google it.
Yep.
And the other end of the spectrum is like we had an episode of last season where Tony Stiglitz was part of our cast, and we were talking about if you have any Google app on your phone at all, it records where you go all the time, even if you're using that app or not, and stuff like that.
It's like,
and he got really uncomfortable with that in the conversation. And we didn't necessarily disagree, if I remember correctly, but he got very uncomfortable.
I can understand.
And that's like the opposite end of this kind of Google relationship. There are parts of Google that record everything you do so that they can sell you a sweater, but then there's parts of Google that are really trying to save the world a little bit. It's a very interesting company to watch.
Yeah.
Hey, if they cure my future injury or whatever that I have, I will go buy the sweater. All right. Like, that's the deal, Google.
What you save in medical bills.
Right. I will spend
Fair
on
enough.
sweaters from the Google store.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's go to break here, and we'll come back in part 3 and talk all about the zombies.
So
Zombies. Wow.
if you die before
DeepMind figures
DeepMind
out
has
your kidney
it. Thank you. I
problems.
was
Well,
about
what
to say
it'll be
Deep
is
Blue.
like 40 years from now, they're going to run DeepMind on like brains and then say,
Yeah,
this
there
is
you
the
go.
parts where we need to trigger the electrodes.
Oh yeah, to bring it back to life.
Yeah.
Whoa.
No, it'll be DeepMind running it on brains to figure out what they need to do to just like take over humanity.
Just to be a brain. Yeah, that's what it finally
It'll be
does.
like, if we
Ooh,
press
tech
here
zombies.
and I inject this like mixture
Nanobot.
of chemicals into the human brain,
Yeah.
like I own it. I'd be like, dang it, it's DeepMind.
3D printing nanobots.
You got us.
DeepMind got us. Wow, that took a turn.
Oh.
All right, guys, let's go to break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Now,
All right.
actually, in the meantime, Krista-Lee, if people want to know, Vee, if people want to talk to you about this, it was just because we were talking about zombies. That's
Yeah.
you.
Gotcha.
If people want to tweet you about this topic, if they have some thoughts, they can find you on Twitter where?
They can find me at bear_Annika.
Marvelous. People can always find the show. Tweet us at Technophiles Pod or find us on iTunes, Facebook, Stitcher, and YouTube by searching Technophiles Podcast, or go to our actual website, technophilespodcast.com. All right, everybody. We'll see you in part 3.
Yeah.
All right.